Marijuana. We've been hearing a lot about it in the news and social media lately.
Hey guys, did you know marijuana cures cancer?
I heard it'll make you go crazy.
Well, Granny said the potheads couldn't hold a job.
There's certainly a lot of information out there about cannabis, but what can be trusted to be real? And what are the costs and benefits for states that have legalized it? Join us for the next 10 minutes as we explore these exact questions. Through the video, we will not seek to persuade you in either direction. For that, friends, is your decision. Let's get started. One of the primary drivers for stateside legalization is economic factors, and Colorado has been quite the case study for this concept. The state's key economic benefit from marijuana legalization has been an increased state tax revenue. For the first 5 months of 2014, combined medical and recreational marijuana taxes exceeded $19.2 million.
Damn!
Marijuana's state tax revenue is providing multiple community benefits, including support for school construction projects such as BEST. It also funds various community health efforts such as youth marijuana prevention programs, substance abuse treatments, regulatory oversight, and law enforcement and public safety initiatives. In addition, Colorado's estimated savings in law enforcement ranges from $12 to $60 million annually. The state also benefits as less individuals are serving jail sentences, decreasing prison populations and maintaining more able-bodied citizenry. But don't take it just from us. We interviewed one of Ohio's leading advocates for marijuana and asked her what her views on this topic are.
What do you think are the anticipated societal benefits from the legalization of marijuana?
Well, first of all, we'll stop putting people in jail for possession of a plant and nonviolent crime. To me, the destruction we do by incarcerating our young people and putting them in jail, if they get a felony, they can't get student loans. It's so hard to get a job after you've been in jail. And even just being placed in jail for 30 days, you get out, they take your driver's license for up to a year. How are you supposed to seek employment after being in jail for 30 days?
Medical marijuana's primary use is for pain management, and particularly for treating neuropathic pain. The relieving effects are due to marijuana's primary cannabinoid, tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC. THC works by binding to CB1 receptors throughout the body, which then decreases the body's response to pain. As a clinical example, marijuana is to treat HIV-associated neuropathic pain, and it also relieves the muscle spasm pains of multiple sclerosis. But that's not the only medical use that has been upheld by studies. Here are just a few other examples of what the plant is doing for patients. In individuals undergoing chemotherapy treatment, it has been shown to reduce nausea and vomiting while increasing the appetite. THC also treats Alzheimer's by slowing the formation of amyloid plaques, the main culprit of the disease. THC may also play a role in preventing epileptic seizures by decreasing excitability of certain brain cells. It aids in hepatitis C treatment by lessening the treatment's side effects. Astonishingly and finally, when used as treatment for inflammatory bowel disease, THC strengthens the bonds of the cellular matrix of the intestinal wall, which thereby decreases permeability to foreign bacteria. As research is still ongoing, look for marijuana to be used in other areas of healthcare as well in the future. So we've laid down the argument for marijuana from an economical standpoint, and it can be quite compelling. We've even discussed some medical uses for this herb of many names. So is it the miracle drug we've all been waiting for, as some people allege? Unfortunately, science says no. Let's take a look at why. Numerous studies have shown that smoking marijuana affects an adolescent's brain by disturbing their anatomy and structure. Dr. Gregory Tao reports that smoking marijuana alters myelination, cortical folding, and cognitive efficiency of the adolescent's brain. Disturbances in white matter are seen as well as thinner, flatter gyri upon MRI scans. It was also noted that the prefrontal regions of the brain saw an increase in recruitment during memory and other cognitive studies, suggesting that the brain was trying to compensate for this decrease in function. But there exist more immediate effects as well. A study conducted by H.G., Yergelin, and Todd reveals that college students have many cognitive side effects even after abstaining from smoking for 19 hours before being tested. The researchers were not able to determine if the effects were from leftover residue or due to withdrawal from the drug. Heavy users saw a significantly greater impairment compared to lighter users, along with a lower reported SAT score for the quantitative portion of the test. It must be noted, however, that no difference in the qualitative portion of the test was seen. Perhaps the most troubling aspect of marijuana use is a report conducted by Bulla et al. That showed a significant decrease in IQ for participants who were heavy marijuana smokers compared to light users. The average change in IQ was 101.9 in light users to 91 in heavy users. Now, it must be noted that the smokers that were heavy users were smoking 78 to 117 joints per week, whereas the lights were doing 2 to 14 joints per week. This study is then bolstered by another more recent study from 2012 that reports an average difference of 8 IQ points in adolescents who use marijuana. So what does all this boil down to in the real world for the individual as well as society? Chronic smokers tend to have slower reaction time, decreased attention spans, poor memory recollection, and lowered test and IQ scores. To further discuss these concepts, we interviewed a leading anti-legalization representative from the Drug Free Action Alliance for her thoughts on the matter.
What we're seeing is that young people will have learning disabilities, they will have memory problems, they will have, if they're predisposed to mental health issues, that could kick it in and make it come to the surface quicker.
This possible detrimental effect on the population needs to be taken into account when thinking about legalizing pot across the United States, but it's far from the only consideration. In Colorado, there has also been an increase in cases of children overdosing due to the easier access of marijuana, largely in the form of edibles accidentally consumed. And so how about an example of this problem? Take a look. How quickly can you tell the difference between the infused and the non-infused product? Now, imagine a child accidentally getting a hold of one of these. To further complicate the matter, current labeling and regulations of edibles has not caught up with demand, and it is difficult to know how much actual product is in each product. Add all this up, and the consequences can be severe. In Colorado, for example, hospitals are seeing an increase in the number of children hospitalized for accidental ingestions. And now, even man's best friend is getting into trouble with documented cases of dogs, other animals, and even a horse dying from consuming edibles or used joint butts. Further, evidence is clear that even adult understanding of edibles lags behind the new and innovative ways that producers are utilizing to bring pot to the public. Many users fail to read the instructions for intake and/or don't understand that the effects of marijuana occur slower when eating as opposed to inhaled. It can take up to an hour to feel the effects of ingested pot as opposed to minutes with inhalation. Whether smoked or consumed, however, the result is impairment of functions. And while many marijuana users claim that they drive at least as good or better while high, the numbers are in, and they're not good. The number of fatalities involving drivers under the influence of marijuana has risen each year since 2006, with a significant spike occurring after recreational marijuana was legalized in 2012. In both cases, it is clear that if marijuana is legalized across the U.S., a large-scale educational campaign must be undertaken or the repercussions could be dire. With all this apocalyptic talk about the dangers to health and to children, it is easy to see why this issue has raised such a call to arms from both sides. It would also be easy to assume that marijuana is a very dangerous drug, and we've shown that it certainly can be. But where does it rank, really, on the grand scheme of things? Well, a study conducted in the UK by a group of experts from the Independent Scientific Committee on Drugs scored and ranked 20 drugs on 16 criteria. 9 criteria related to the harm that a drug produces in the individual and 7 to the harm to others. Drugs were scored out of 100 points, and the criteria were weighted to indicate their relative importance. So which drug is overall the most harmful? That answer may surprise you. Multi-criteria decision analysis modeling showed that heroin, crack, cocaine, and methamphetamine were by far the most harmful drug to individuals, whereas alcohol, heroin, and crack cocaine were the most harmful to others. Overall, alcohol was the most harmful drug of all. Marijuana, on the other hand, ranked a mere 8th in overall harm. Marijuana has a long history of being singled out by the United States government. This can be seen quite easily in these government-issued propaganda posters from the 1930s. This history of demonization of marijuana by the government still obscures the debate over its legalization and greatly affects the ability to research the pros and cons. When the risks and benefits of marijuana use are discussed by advocates, healthcare workers, and lawmakers, the evidence is largely anecdotal. Compared to other pharmaceuticals and even other illegal drugs, studying marijuana in any formal sense has practically been impossible under federal regulation. Although certain state laws have decriminalized or legalized marijuana, it is still classified as a Schedule I drug by federal law. It's a label the government reserves for drugs which carry a high risk of abuse and have no accepted medical use in the United States. As a result, marijuana remains in Schedule I with drugs like ecstasy, heroin, and LSD. Unlike all other illegal drugs, marijuana research is uniquely subject to an open-ended public health review by the Public Health Service. It's easier for scientists to study the potential medical benefits and risks of heroin than it is to study the same effects on marijuana.
Your hands are tied on Schedule I, but it is ludicrous, absurd, crazy to have marijuana in the same level as heroin.
So there you have it. Like most things in life, the issue is far more complicated than it seems at first glance. The economic benefits are substantial, but the cost to health and society are as well. In the end, it's up to the citizens to decide. Shall we stay the current path, allowing the states and communities to work it out for themselves? Or will we embrace the change on a national level? Only time will tell.
Smoke weed every day, day. Smoke every day, day. Smoke